What's up team, my name is Mark, welcome back to a new exciting tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at how I took this photo and made this photo right here, much more exciting, using only basic adjustments in Lightroom, no editing it in Photoshop, just basic stuff. So the backstory to this photo is I spent 3 months in Vietnam riding around on a motorbike and I reached Ha Long Bay, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. The problem was it's a place that is just overrun with tourists. The first day I got there, I went on a cruise. It got to the point where I stopped taking photos. There's just too many tourists. It was absolutely mental. One of my Instagram followers sent me a message saying, if you're in Ha Long Bay, you need to check out Poem Mountain. I'm like, Poem Mountain, what the hell is that? It's the classic Instagram photo from Vietnam. It's absolutely stunning. And it's a bit hidden. You need to find this small shady alleyway, walk up, bribe a guy to open a gate, climb up the top of the mountain. But once you're there, there is just no tourists, nothing. And you get this epic 360-degree view of Ha Long Bay. It's just stunning. So I put the tripod down, and what you'll see in the photo, if you zoom in, is I'm actually using my phone as a remote control to take the photo. So it's really not as candid as it looks in the photo, but actually, hold on, let me show you. Right here, look at that. Okay, so now let me show you how I edit it. Roll the intro. Okay, so we're in Lightroom, and the first thing I can see on this photo is I've got this sort of polluted, hazy fog thing going on in the background, and I want to get rid of that. So there are a couple of ways you could do this. The first way would be to either just replace the sky completely and add in some fake clouds, something like that. Or you can do what we're going to do on this tutorial, is just fade it out gradually so that you can take away all the attention from that section of the image and make sure the attention is focused on the lower third. It's also a bit of an easier edit, and you don't need overlays or to download other things. You can just do it straight from Lightroom. And that's what we're going to look at today. Okay, so first step, I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom and apply enable profile corrections and remove chromatic aberrations, just so that's done. Get that out of the way. Next step, as with all of the images I edit, I always pull the highlights all the way down and the shadows all the way up. That way I know how much dynamic range I've got and I know what I'm working with. So the image now is way too flat, so I'm just going to pull the shadows back down and introduce a bit more contrast. I reckon something like that looks pretty good. Next step, I'm just going to hold the options key and pull the whites up until I see a few dots appearing, something like that. Yep, I'm happy with that. Same goes for the blacks. I'm going to pull those down until I see a few dots, and that looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So, okay, now let's play the white balance. So I always put it on auto first, just to see how it looks and see if it works. I feel like this might be a little bit too warm, so I'm just going to pull it back down a little bit. Something like that. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to bump the clarity up a little bit, see what that does to the image. I've got a lot of detail at the bottom, so I really want all this detail, all this structure to pop. So I'm going to pull the clarity up. There we go, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the basic adjustments I've got on here, but I do always like to add a bit of a fade to my images. So I'm going to go to the tone curve and just crush the blacks a little bit, crush the whites a tad, and then add a bit of contrast, like so, a bit of an S-curve. There we go, I reckon that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that I've got my basic adjustments done, I'm going to head down to the hue, saturation, and luminance panel and start playing with the colors. Now, I'm a big fan of greens. I always like big, strong, vibrant greens in my photos. So I'm going to head to hue, select an area that's got some green, and then just pile it up a little bit and see how that looks. There we go. That's already looking so much more vibrant. I'm really happy with that already. That was quite good. I might pull the reds. Let's see what happens if I pull the reds. I might pull them down a little bit because I want to make sure the skin tones contrast with the green. So I pull those down a bit. However, I am starting to look a little bit too orange, so I'm just going to pull the saturation down on the reds and a little bit on the greens as well, just to make sure I'm not too orange. You know, I want to keep it natural looking. Okay, so that's already looking really good. Now I want to start working on this top section right here, which is kind of boring right now. So the first step for me is going to be to zoom all the way out, grab the radial filter, and add a big sphere in the corner here. There we go, something like that. I make sure it's a really big sphere, so it's got like a long fade all the way, and it's very gradual, it's not too harsh. So I'm going to zoom back in and then set the exposure to 0 on that, and then slowly bump the exposure up and see how that looks. That was quite nice. Maybe give it a bit of warmth as well. There we go, that's already looking quite good. And pull dehaze down just to give it that soft faded look. There we go, something like that. The idea is I want to emulate a sun that you wouldn't be able to see in this picture, but that sort of shining light on the side. That's quite nice already, I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so next step, there's a lot of green going on in this photo. I'm a big fan of greens, but there's a bit too much. This water kind of takes away the attention from all this detail, all this green here, which is stunning. So what I'm going to do is grab the brush tool, and I'm just going to slowly brush over all of this water right here. I can eyeball it, it doesn't have to be super precise, but there we go, just go around the corners. We'll make some finer adjustments in a second. But first, let's just cover the whole thing. Okay, now that it's all whited out, I'm going to reset it to 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the saturation down on this water, try and take away some of those greens. There we go, pull the saturation down until you're happy with how it looks. And then I might just bring the temperature down as well, just to bring in some blues. There we go, that already looks so much better, I'm quite happy with that. And now because I've done this, all the areas where I wasn't too precise have started to come out. So I can fine tune it by brushing around these edges. Same goes for here, there we go, all around these corners and edges, just to make sure I don't have any green that pops out of nowhere. Something like that. There we go. Okay, that's already looking pretty good. Okay, I reckon we're looking pretty good on that one. Now, the trouble is you've got these sort of harsh lines here between what you've painted and what was the original picture. So what I'm going to do is just put a graduated filter going down here, and then slowly desaturate it. And then that way it's going to get rid of these harsh lines that you had before. There we go, job done, easy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I really want the attention to be on this area down here. So what I'm going to do is take a radial filter, put it on me, and then flip it around a little bit just to make sure I've covered myself. Bring exposure up just a tiny bit. There we go, 0.3, and punch the clarity up a little bit as well. I do feel like I'm starting to look a little bit too orange, so I might just bring the saturation down. There we go, something like that. And lastly, I'm going to add a graduated filter from the bottom because I feel like there's a little bit too much detail going on at the bottom. I want to focus the attention on the point of interest. The point of interest being me because I'm just that narcissistic. There we go, bring the exposure down by 0.75, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how this looks already. The only thing that annoys me is these boats on the left. I'm just going to get the spot removal tool and then just click on them. There we go. One at a time. Something like that. And voila, all the boats are gone. Easy as. Okay, so you could leave the picture at that, but what I do like to do towards the end is just bump up the contrast just a little bit more. And I feel like this sun that I added on the left could be a little bit stronger. So I'm just going to go back up here and just punch the warmth up a little bit more. There we go, now we've got something going. Okay, I'm super stoked with how this looks. The last step, of course, is to make sure that you're in the proper Instagram format. So hit the crop tool, set it to 4:5, which is the Instagram size, and make sure your point of interest is at the intersection of these two lines. So just put it down like that. And last but not least, I'm going to add a little bit of a vignette to this photo, just to bring the attention in a little bit more. I always do this right at the end, that way I've got the proper size, proper aspect ratio, everything, and the vignette doesn't interfere with my editing workflow. And voila, I'm super stoked with how it's turned out. If we check the before and after, we can see that this whole top area that used to be very foggy, very muggy, now we've got so much more detail, so much more contrast, and it looks so much more lively. It doesn't look like it's polluted or dark or grim. We've got this strong light, we've got a lot of detail, a lot of contrast, and the overall image is just so much nicer. So we've really come a long way from this picture to this picture right here. Now, the whole point of this tutorial is to really show you some of the tools that you can use, radial filters, graduated filters, maybe go a little bit overboard with them, but just to show you that these tools are really powerful and can help you focus the attention of whoever's looking at your photo on a certain spot. For example, here I managed to get rid of all of that fog, all of that pollution, and replace it with light and make sure the attention is where it should be, which is towards the bottom of the photo, and really bring out a lot of contrast in those huge rocky formations that we've got in Halong Bay. So try and play around with these radial and graduated filters, try and see what you can come up with. It's an easy way to add or subtract the light from certain areas of your photo. So that's it for the tutorial, team. Make sure to like and comment, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and join the team. I'll be making a lot more of these tutorials, so if there's something that you want me to cover, just let me know in the comments down below and I'll see what I can do. My name is Mark, and I'll see you guys next time.